Hello, everybody. This is Bernie Stroum, and welcome to my YouTube channel for this Sunday's So You Think You Know the Boston Red Sox with Bernie Stroum. Oh, let me turn this down. Okay, here we go. Had the monitor with the sound on. Didn't want that to happen. Anyway, you don't want to hear an echo. We are going to be going over the 1975 Red Sox seasons. And that's going to be a lot of fun because, unlike maybe some of the earliest 70 seasons, I paid attention to this one along with all the other Red Sox fans. This is the one we've been waiting for since the end of the 67 season. Hope everybody had a nice 4th of July here on Sunday, July 5th, 2026. Okay. So let me open my notes and we'll get started and go over what I remember about the 1975 season. People talk about the 1970 season. The first image that comes to mind usually is Carlton Fisk waving the ball fair in the 12th inning, Game 6 of the World Series. And that's understandable. It's probably one of the most famous moments in baseball history and replayed over and over again all over visual media. But the 75 Red Sox were much more than that one swing. They were really a complete team, in my opinion. They were a team of rookies plus veterans. They had some comeback players. They had some players that didn't play so well. And there was a lot of good luck for the Red Sox in 1975. The thing that I remember the most about 75 is Fred Lynn's rookie season. Fred Lynn and Jim Rice burst into the scene that year. Red Sox also had Kari Yastrzemski, who was a steady player, the leader of the team, and although not the same spectacular player he was back in 67, he was a steadying force on the team. Carlton Fisk was the player that came back from injury. He had been gone for at least half of the 74 season, and probably the reason why they lost the big lead in September that year. Dwight Evans came on the scene. He'd been on the scene for a couple of years, and he stood out as a tremendous defensive right fielder. He became a better hitter as time went on, but he was still a great right fielder at that point. The shortstop position had moved on from Riccio Petrocelli to Rick Burleson, who was a little flashier shortstop with the glove, but didn't hit quite as well as Rico. Rico still played a little bit of third base in 1975. And, of course, on the mound, who can not remember Louis Tiant? Tiant had a spectacular year. He always drew a big crowd because of his twisting, looking at second base before he threw the ball home pitching style. Let's see what else I have down here. What other players? Red Sox finished 75 regular season. They had a good record, 95-65. It was good enough to beat the Baltimore Orioles, who were the team of the first half of the 1970s. They were a super team. They beat them by 4.5 games. And that all by itself was a major achievement, beating the Orioles. I can tell you that much. In 75, the Red Sox started the season. I think that we had as fans more in our mind of their fading in 74 than, oh boy, this is going to be a great year in 75. But of course, Fred Lynn and Jim Rice becoming all-star players got not only myself but the rest of the fans all excited. And because of the addition of those two players and the fact you get Fisk back, early on you thought that this team was fairly special, as it added power with both Lynn and Rice. It added RBIs, and it added 2/3 of the outfield, which really helped the team win. Fred Lynn had one of the greatest rookie seasons that year in Major League history at 331, 21 home runs, 105 runs batted in. He led the league in several major offensive categories, and could he play defense. As a matter of fact, there's padding on the center field wall in Fenway Park today because of Fred Lynn crashing into the wall so many times to make spectacular catches. Not only did Fred Lynn win the Rookie of the Year award, he won the MVP award in the same season. And to top it off, he also won the Gold Glove. I don't think any player's ever done that since, or before, for that matter. When you think about it, really, when a rookie comes to Fenway Park with all that pressure to put up that kind of season, it was pretty spectacular in my mind. Jim Rice was nearly as good as Freddie Lynn. Rice hit 309, hit 22 home runs, 102 runs batted in. He actually was the leader in Red Sox in home runs, and he was only 22 years old at the time. And with those two players, the Red Sox had a 1-2 punch. When you look at it and you throw in your Stroum and Burleson and Evans and a few of the other players, with any pitching at all, they were going to be successful. One of the highlights of the season came in June 18th in Detroit. I watched this game on TV. I didn't spend a lot of time at Fenway Park in 75. By then, I was 24 years old, married, had a job full-time, and couldn't go to Fenway Park like I did in the 67 season, went to 50, 60 games. I probably went to a 10 or 12 games in 75 whenever I could. But, working full-time and having a job and a new wife, it became a little difficult to do that. On that game on June 18th on television, and I remember watching it, Lynn hit 3 home runs, hit a triple, a single, drove in 10 runs, had 16 total bases, and the Red Sox won that game 15-1. That's when you knew this team was something special, and that kid was quite the player. Yastrzemski, let's talk about him for a minute. Let's take a sip of water here. What I remember about Yastrzemski, he was one of the few links to the 67 team that was still on the team. By 75, Yastrzemski was not quite the same player he was in 67, but he was still a very good player. He played first base in the outfield. He was a great defensive player. And when Yastrzemski came up in a big spot, you still believed that he was going to get the hit you needed. Of course, there was Carlton Fisk, who was injured the previous season with a serious knee injury. He came back in 75, and he came back in June of 75, and he had 331 over the remainder of the season, which is pretty damn good for a catcher in Major League Baseball. Dwight Evans in right field had not yet become the good hitter he would become in the 80s, but he was great defensively and had one of the best arms in right field I'd ever seen, as he would throw out runners all the time from right field. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to take a short break and have to sneeze. I'll be right back. Well, you never can sneeze when you have to, so I apologize if I sneeze in the middle of doing this broadcast. The infield was a good infield, if not spectacular. Rick Burleson was a shortstop. He was a steady player. He had a great arm. He was a fiery little player, I remember. And I thought he was a much better shortstop than Rico Petrocelli, although Petrocelli was still on the team and played third base. Denny Doyle came in and played second base. He was a good, steady player, not a star by any means, but he held the position down well. Cecil Cooper, who would become a star with the Milwaukee Brewers, played some first base and DH. I don't know why the Red Sox ever traded him. I would have kept him, but he certainly was an addition. And then, of course, my favorite super sub, Bernie Carbo, who hit that home run that everybody remembers in the World Series. He was a dangerous bat off the bench. He could really hit, and he was invaluable during the 75 season. Pitching staff. Let's talk about pitching for a minute. Let me take a look over here at the. Before we talk about pitching, take a look. There's a Greg Stein. Greg S. Twins fan. Hey, just purchased the season from PC Replay. Enjoyed it very much. And the Red Sox had a heck of a squad. Yeah, they did. And a Twins fan. I like the Twins. My son-in-law is a big Minnesota Twins fan. Rick Wise led the team with 19 wins. Bill Lee won 17 games again, and both were very steady. Reggie Cleveland, Leo Moret, Dick Drago, and others had roles to play. They weren't as spectacular as El Tiante. Louis Tiant was probably the most talked about pitcher on the Red Sox back in the 70s. His delivery was a show all by himself, with his turning his back to the hitter, looking at second base, twisting, firing. He was pretty spectacular. The TV loved Louis Tiant. Late in the season, when the Orioles made their move on the Red Sox, fans began to feel, and myself think, that Baltimore is going to overtake him. Tiant delivered one of his most important games of the year on September 16th at Fenway Park. The Orioles were chasing Boston down. Tiant faced Jim Palmer and beat him 2-0. Petrocelli, Fisk hit home runs that day. Tiant gave Boston exactly what they needed a strong shutout, and Boston took over the race from that point on. September 21st in Detroit, Jim Rice was hit by a pitch and broke his hand, and then we thought, well, here it comes. Here comes the Red Sox going to blow it now, as Jim Rice is going to be out not only for the rest of the season, but going to miss the World Series. And just like that, Rice misses the playoffs and the World Series. The injury became one of the great what-if questions in baseball history. And that's what I like about baseball sims. If you replay the 75 series, as Greg S. Twins fan could do, you could play the Red Sox with Jim Rice, and would that have made a difference? 75? Who knows? I have not replayed that World Series with him, but that's probably a good idea. I think I will. Probably next season after I finish this Red Sox tournament I'm doing. But even with losing their home run leader, the Red Sox still held on. They clinched the division on the 27th of September and went on to face the American League Championship Series and the Oakland A's. And the Oakland A's, these are the three-time defending world champions with Reggie Jackson, Sal Bando, Vida Blue, Raleigh Fingers. You thought the Red Sox were in trouble, that they made the playoffs. And we're going to run a little long because 75 is a season that I like to talk about. We're going to run a little long, so I apologize. Usually it's around 15 minutes the show, but we may go 20, 25 minutes because we need to talk about the playoffs and the World Series. Game 1 at Fenway belonged to Louis Tiant. He beat the A's 7-1, and the Red Sox started to establish themselves as a team that had to be reckoned with. In game number 2, Red Sox won 6-3. Yastrzemski hitting a home run just like he did in 67. He steps up and gets a hit when they need it. Then they went to Oakland in game 3, and the Red Sox won again by surprise. Rick Wise and Drago completed that win, and the Red Sox were only one game away from heading to the World Series. And they were going to face one of the greatest teams in the history of baseball, the Big Red Machine. And the Red Sox win this game 5-3, and they won 3 out of 5, which was the best of the. They played 5 games, so they weren't one game away. That was an error on my part. Only 5 games in that series, so they now head to face the Cincinnati Reds, which some people think is the greatest World Series in the history of baseball. The Reds were loaded. They had bench, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Tony Perez, George Foster, Dave Concepcion, Ken Griffey, Cesar Geronimo, and Sparky Anderson, one of the greatest managers in the history of baseball, managed the team. In Game 1 at Fenway Park, Tiant pitches again, and he shuts out the Reds 6-0, just as he won Game 1 of the Oakland series. And now, for some reason, I think the Red Sox can win the World Series. Cincinnati, however, came back in a one-run victory, won Game 2 3-2. And in Game 3, the Reds snuck a 6-5 victory in 10 innings. And that's a game that had a little controversy. If you were around in those days, you would ask whether Ed Armbruster got in the way of a play at the plate when Carlton Fisk tried to make a play on a bunt. Armbruster collided with him, interfering, in my opinion, and the runner and the batter should have been called out. However, he was not called for interference, and Cincinnati wins the game 6-5. We still talk about that game, and everybody in Boston will never forget who Ed Armbruster is. In Game 4, Tiant's pitching again. The Red Sox need a win, and guess what? They got it 5-4, tying the series at 2 games apiece. Tiant threw a complete game. I've seen games where he pitched through well over 200 pitches. And Tiant wins that game. Cincinnati wins Game 5, 6-2, and the games go back to Fenway Park in Boston for Game 6 and 7. Game 6, as Pete Rose once said, and this is what I remember, could be the greatest game ever played in World Series history. We may get this done in 20 minutes. Game 6 was delayed for 3 days, which was an important part because of rain. Boston had time to think about the game. Cincinnati had time to think about the game, and the fans had time to talk about the game. Finally, on October 21st, they played Game 6. Boston jumped out to an early lead, bottom of the first. Fred Lynn hit a 3-run homer. Red Sox led 3-0, and then you really began to wonder what it would be like to win the World Series finally. First time in my lifetime, and first time in almost 60 years at this point, the Red Sox had their streak going. And let's see. My notes say, let me make sure I get this right. The Big Red Machine wouldn't go away and tied the game and moved ahead. The 8th inning, the score was 6-3, Cincinnati, and we thought it was over, be very honest with you. Then came the Carbo at bat. Carbo, who the Red Sox got from the Reds earlier in his career, was a very colorful, unpredictable guy. Raleigh Eastwick on the mound. And if you can recall the at bat, Eastwick overpowers him and he swings at a really bad pitch and misses it. And then came the 3-run homer that tied the game. And all of a sudden, me as a Red Sox fan are back excited again. We're not going to be eliminated in Game 6. In the bottom of the 9th, Red Sox could have won it. They had the bases loaded and nobody out. But Freddie Lynn hit a fly ball to left field, and for some unknown reason, Denny Doyle tagged from third base and tried to score. He was thrown out at the plate. I have no idea why he went. I was pissed, but I remember being angry. In the top of the 11th, Morgan hit a ball deep to right field that looked like it was going to be a home run or at least a triple. And Dwight Evans made one of the most sensational catches in World Series history near the wall in right field. And when he caught the ball, he turned around. Ken Griffey was so far off first base because everybody thought the ball was over Evans's head. He doubled Griffey off for the double play. Could be considered one of the greatest plays in World Series history. And then, of course, on the bottom of the 12th, I won't spend a lot of time. Carlton Fisk hit his home run, which is now infamous in baseball history, as it hit the left field foul pole. And then we went on to Game 7, and the Red Sox took another 3-0 early lead. And I'm sitting back, and I remember smiling. I'm watching on my new GE 10-inch color TV that I paid $299 for in 1975. And we're watching the game, and the Red Sox take a 3-0 lead. And all I can remember about how that ended was that the Red Sox had a rookie pitcher on the mound facing Joe Morgan. And Joe Morgan hits a blooping single into right field that knocks in the winning run. Cincinnati wins 4-3, and such a spectacular series ends on such a mundane play. And the Red Sox fans, including myself, are disappointed for the second time in 8 years as we lose a World Series in 7 games, and our World Series drought continues. It was a great team. I remember 75. The 6th game of the World Series will live on in history as one of the greatest games ever played. It's a shame it ended in such a way for a Red Sox fan as a bloop single by Joe Morgan. But I've gone overtime. It is a good season to spend a little extra time on. 1975, next Sunday, begins a new chapter in Red Sox history, 1976. Hope everyone has a wonderful Sunday, and we will catch everybody. Next Sunday at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of You Think You Know the Red Sox. In the meantime, Tuesday evening, 7:30 Eastern, we will 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we will be starting another Red Sox tournament series. And I'm not sure who it is, but keep an eye on the Facebook page. We will post the information tomorrow. Have a nice Sunday, everybody.